Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Johan Sjöberg. I'm the Executive Vice President of Skedero. I would like to take a couple of minutes of your time today to talk about how the integration between Avinode and Skedero could make your Avinode membership even more valuable. What you can do with data, with pricing, with the integrations, to make sure that you get the most out of your Avinode membership. We're going to look at how you can improve your price accuracy. We're going to look at how you can adopt a more efficient process, smarter quoting, how we can set you up with low friction, how you can use our system for subchartering needs, and have one integrated workflow. So, charter sales is in our DNA. Avinode Group was founded 18 years ago to make the process of buying and selling air charter more efficient. Some success factors behind this and behind Avinode being where it is today is that we have spent a lot of focus on pricing, being able to mimic how all these operators and members that we have are doing their pricing. Availability, distribution, and then tons of conversations with our members to understand their pain points and understand what keeps them up at night and how we can make their process more efficient. In 2006, Avinode launched Avinode Quotation, which was a quoting product for retail clients. In 2010, Avinode released the current versions of the pricing profiles that you are still using today, even though they have been modified and expanded. And also in 2010, Avinode Group launched Skedero. And the first part of Skedero and the core feature in Skedero has been the charter sales module. So again, charter sales and pricing is a key component of what we do at Avinode Group. And why is this important, you ask? Well, for a 135 operator, for a charter operator, it all starts with a quote. If there are no quotes being sent out, there are no flights that are going to be flown, right? So if you can't get the quote out in a timely manner, in a professional manner, then everything else doesn't really matter. So let's go back to pricing profiles and just very, very shortly talk about this. I'm not going to go into much depth. Also, what I want to talk about here is the commercial side, the charter sales side of Skedero and how it relates to Avinode. Obviously, Skedero is a fully operation system for 135 operators, flight departments, and anybody flying an aircraft, frankly, where you can do anything from crewing to passenger manifest, TSA integrations, accounting, calendar, and so forth. So the charter sales piece is just one component of what we do on the Skedero side. So pricing profiles. I have been out on the road quite a lot lately, meeting Avinode members and Skedero members, and one sort of common factor when I meet and talk to these members is how limited the usage is of what we have to offer. People use pretty much the basic setup in the pricing profiles on the Skedero side and on the Avinode side, and we have a lot more to offer. One thing, if you're operating a large aircraft, right, well, or any aircraft, you want to have as long flights as possible. You don't want to do the 45-minute hops here and there. You want to do the 6, 7, 8-hour flights. Adopt our falling hourly rate pricing, right? The longer you fly, the more discount you get. So on hours 4, 5, and 6, you might be giving 2% discount. On hours 9 and 10, you might be giving 10% discount. This is how you get more competitive in the Avinode marketplace compared to the competition. That's just one thing. Urgent rate. Somebody wants to get a flight and they want to go now. Put that into your pricing profile, right? So when your charter sales team is producing a quote, it's picking the right pricing profile for that go now rate. Customer-based pricing. You have somebody that flies with you all the time. When you pick that client in Skedero, that can apply a different pricing profile as well. So there are very, very, a lot of things you can do on the pricing profile setup. Another thing is obviously very basic, but also something I see out there is that, have a lower rate flying empty than what you have flying with passengers. You can be more competitive in a larger geographical area. So just small tips and tricks. And if you're unsure how the pricing profiles work, what to do and how to tweak them, talk to us. We have conversations with members on a daily basis and we look at their pricing and we give them some tricks on how they can improve. Two things that are going to come in the Avinode group, both on the Avinode side and on the Scudero side here, beginning of next year, is margin calculation. So every quote you do in Scudero, you'll be able to see the margin on that quote. Are you making money or not? Should you do this trip? That's a very key piece of information to have before you quote. And also floating fleet. We know a lot of operators that are operating with a floating fleet model, and that's going to come in Avinode and Scudero beginning of next year as well. You have all the tools to beat the competition. Use them. Some very basic stuff is make sure that your profile is set up correctly with pictures, with information, terms and conditions, right? This is key information for somebody that's about to book your aircraft and how you can stand out in the competition as well. It's pricing and also how you present yourself. Make sure that you are using a operation system or a scheduling system like Scudero that integrates with Avinode, so your availability is updated correctly. If you're trying to sell your aircraft and manually going in and update Avinode, I'm sure you're going to miss a couple of flights. If your emptied legs are not being posted automatically or being priced, you're definitely not going to get the right exposure in the Avinode marketplace. Adopt a more efficient process. So business aviation is all about providing a customized experience for the passenger sitting back in the aircraft, right? Whatever catering or whatever, whatever they would like to get on the flight. What we see on the Avinode and Scudero side is that the process of quoting should not be a customized process. It should be a standardized process where you get all of your requests coming into one sales funnel. Your website requests that you have on your website for end clients to come in and get a price, they come into Scudero in one funnel. Your user-created quotes that you do for anybody calling in, they are in the same funnel. Your Avinode request, if you're using one of the Scudero owner portals, those requests will come in from your aircraft owners in the same funnel, as well as all the requests from your Avinode app. If you have that standardized way of handling and working with your request, you will also be able to gather a lot of interesting data. If you're working in a siloed system where you do quoting in one system, operations in another system, you have Avinode on the side, it's going to be very hard to combine those different data sources, and you're going to miss out on a lot of learnings that you can take. It's 2019 right now. I had a meeting 3 weeks ago, I think, with a customer, and I saw how they were working with 3 different siloed systems and putting the same data in 3 times. What happens is you waste a lot of your time and you are running the risk of doing mistakes. And again, you're not being able to capture the data at the end of the day. So double entry, it's 2019. There is no room for double entry. And we also know that, the way that this industry works is that, if you're doing a good job, you're booking, 5, 6, 7% maybe of the incoming request, which means that 95% of the time, you're just sending out a quote that is going to lead nowhere. Make sure that that process of generating that quote is as short as possible, and that's where Scudero comes in, where you can create a quote in 30 seconds, and you have more time to follow up and understand, why are we not getting the flight? Is there something we can do different? And you track that in the system, so you're continuously learning with the data that you collect. Quote intelligence. So I talked about charter sales being in the DNA of the Avinode group, and very much so on the Scudero side as well. So a couple of years ago, we launched something we call quote intelligence, which is basically a way for us to give data back to our customers in an easy fashion. So what it does is basically looks at the customers. So when you create a quote coming in from Avinode or creating a user-created quote, it's going to tell you how valuable is this customer. Is this a customer that is just requesting from you and never booking? And that gives you pretty good insight, how you should prioritize your daily work, right? Obviously start with the ones that are booking with you a lot, and then, go for the ones that might not be booking with you as much. Airport popularity, another thing. You might end up in an area you've never been before, at an airport that you don't really know when you're quoting. Should you stay at this airport? Should you quote a round trip coming back to home base? Or should you add 20 minutes, 30 minutes and stay there and then position somewhere else around that area to an airport with higher demand? We're going to show you, based on Avinode data in Scudero, what airports you should position to. And then quote consistency. We're also going to show you in the Scudero interface how consistent you are with the quotes that you produce. At what price do you book the flights, and at what price you're basically just quoting and not getting the flights. So few small things that you can use in order to produce better quotes and learn from the data that you're putting into the system as well. this is one feature that you could use if only if you use Avinode, but I want to highlight it because I see that a lot of operators are not using it today. So in a click of a button on the Avinode interface and on the Scudero interface, you will be able to see what the broker saw when he or she sent you the request. So you can see who you're competing with. You can see if there are any transient aircraft sitting around that normally not at this airport where you're going to. You can see if there are any empty lanes that you're competing with directly. Use this to make sure that you know how the market is pricing before you quote. If you don't do this, you're basically quoting in blind, and you can make better decisions by using this. If you know Avinode, you already know Scudero. Behind the scenes, Avinode and Scudero is the same. It's the same pricing, the same performance, it's the same aircraft, it's the same marketing material that you end up uploading, it's the same images, right? It's the same pricing profiles. You set up the pricing in Avinode, it's that same pricing you're going to use in Scudero as well, which means that if you change your pricing, it's always reflected in both systems. You don't end up with an internal pricing profile and an external pricing profile on the Avinode side. This is some key features. So, that sort of switch to whatever you might be using today to using Scudero and Avinode in combination is not as hard as you think. Integrated workflow equals better data. I've talked a little bit about this before. If you adopt this process by having an integrated workflow where the Avinode request comes in, you quote it through Scudero, and you book it through Scudero, you're going to be able to capture a lot of interesting data and make sure that you learn, adopt, and do better next time. So you can increase that conversion rate from 5% to 6%, let's say. But if you're working in siloed data points where you have to double entry the data every single time, this is going to be much more of a challenge for you. And data is really, that's gold, right, to be able to do this. So if all this sort of comes together, what you will get then is you will get better exposure on the Avinode marketplace. You will be able to beat the competition by using the pricing profiles more efficiently than what you're doing today. You're going to have efficiency where you can quote in seconds instead of minutes, so you can use that additional time to follow up and learn and capture the data, and then use the data to make sure that you improve your processes. Data. So on the Avinode side, we're doing a little bit of an experiment right now where we are looking at what the demand will look like in the coming 7 days. So on the Avinode marketplace, we have somewhere around 600,000 to 700,000 charter requests going through the system on a monthly basis, which means that we are, again, collecting a lot of interesting data that we can supply back to you guys. So when next time you're flying, you can then see a map of Europe or a map of the US and see where is demand higher this week compared to last week and where is demand lower. So you know how to position, where to position your aircraft. We're also going to look at further down the line on supply. You're flying into an airport with a, let's say you're operating a Citation XL. How many other Citation XLs are sitting at that airport today available to do a flight? Again, should you stay at that airport? Should you position somewhere else? And where should you position? That's very good information to have. Again, this is something that we are working on right now. And one of the guys that is working on this and the person you really want to have a conversation with here at the show or afterwards is Harry. Harry knows data. He knows more data than anybody, I think, in the Avinode group. And he has some really, really interesting insights. And he wants to talk to you. And I think you would definitely want to talk to him to improve your processes. So that's where we are. Avinode, Scudero, Harry, it all coming together at the end. Thank you.